of my students used to ask me a routine question, perhaps not only my students, but those people who associate with me, those people whom I teach, those people whom I come into contact. Many of them ask me a similar question, and today I am trying to answer that question in a very short span of time. What would be the nature of Prelims 2020? Is Prelims 2020 going to be a trendsetter? This is the usual question that many of the candidates used to ask me, and I felt like answering that question because it is definitely a very vital question and perhaps a very beautiful question to be answered, because you are actually taking the role of a prophet. Okay, and I may feel that this may be a role that suits many of us in a better way, but I'm not going for a sheer prophecy without any basis, like looking at your palm and telling palmistry or something like that. Okay, this is something else. This is perhaps an assumption that is based on examining the question papers right from 1990. If you start examining UPSC question papers, maybe from 1990 onwards, it started showing a trend or started showing a pattern of change from 2004 precisely. If you see 2003 question paper, that was actually a continuation. You can drive a straight line, you can draw a straight line from 1990 to 2003, and right from 2004 onwards, gradually it was showing a changing trend, and by 2010 it again started moving the other way around. Right from 2011, an important incident has happened. The CSAT has been introduced, which is also known as Civil Service Aptitude Test, and the optional objective paper that existed, that was paper 2 before, till 2010 was replaced, and this new paper was being introduced. From 2011 to 2014, that was the first phase of CSAT examination, where there was a GS paper 1. That was of course a copy of the previous GS paper with a lot of changes about which I am going to speak right now. And of course there was a CSAT paper that consisted of things like English comprehension, mental ability, numerical ability, logical reasoning, decision making, etc. And when we deal with this paper 1, definitely from 2011 to 2014, this paper 1 was more factual with maybe 25 to 30% of conceptual questions. From 2015 to 2019, of course, that is the year in which we had the last prelims examination, this paper started showing a different trend. And the different trend was that this paper started developing a current focus. Previously, there were a set of current affair questions, maybe 15 to 20, and the rest were conventional with a conceptual basis. Okay, I hope you get me. The rest were conventional, but of course they were conceptual. But right from 2015 to 2019, the number of current affair questions started increasing, and there was a special tagline that UPSC was using right from 2016 paper. Many of you may be aware of this tagline, especially those people who are writing exam from 2016. That is, this particular item was there recently in news. Identify the item, identify the area to which the item belongs, and identify the place. I remember a question that was in 2017 prelims. Of course, the question was like this: a special type of banana was identified with a yellow color, which is very large in size, and it was recently in news. Identify the place in which that banana was found. Many candidates are puzzled literally because they don't know what is this banana. Many of them never read that banana, except a minority, maybe 10 to 15%, because 17 itself was a watershed year when a number of recent news questions were posed, and many of them were shudder shocked to see such a question paper. The same trend, and that banana was found in, let me answer that question, it was found in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Same trend repeated again in 2018 and in 2019. A number of current affair questions, and the number of current affair questions increased like anything, that is almost 15 to 20 questions. And the biggest surprise in 2018 and 19 was that there were special current affair questions that were 18, maybe 15 to 20 or 20 to 25. Other than that, even conventional questions were asked from those areas which were recently in news. I repeat, recent conventional questions are also asked from those areas which were recently in news. Say for example, the Honorable Supreme Court had made a statement. This is related to a 2018 question. The Honorable Supreme Court had made a statement that it is the custodian of the Constitution of India in the beginning of 2018. Okay, and within no time, within a short span of time, that is by 2018 June or July, that is when the prelims were held, that question also came, who is the custodian, or rather the guardian of the Constitution of India? Many candidates opted for President of India, some of them opted for the Constitution. So itself, some of them opted for the Supreme Court, and many similar answers. But the statement of the Supreme Court itself became a question. And now, what would be the nature of paper in 2020? That would be a very, what you say, a seemingly beautiful affair to predict, of course, depending on the trend that was happening in the recent years. And I may say that this paper again would be another trendsetter, as happened in 2014. In 2014, there was a rapid change with regard to the nature and pattern of the question paper. And I strongly believe that 2019 also will be a trendsetter. This would be my approach towards this paper, that there will be a number of current affair questions, especially those questions that are handpicked from one major source, that is the Hindu newspaper, from where a number of questions would be handpicked, especially questions that may be coming from some areas. Please note those areas like science and technology, environment, geography, culture. This would be the four areas where the Hindu will be the definite source, and you can expect almost all questions in these four areas that are being handpicked from the Hindu. Other than that, there may be another set of questions, maybe like 10 to 15 current focus questions, and they may be definitely handpicked from similar other sources. Majority of them would be from the India Yearbook that will be published in the beginning of the year, and from the Economic Survey of India. Many of the economics questions also would be directly handpicked from the Economic Survey, and they may be conceptual, they may be related to a concept, and some of them would also be handpicked from other similar current affair items that prefer to come in the internet as well as in the news daily or on a regular basis. Naturally, I strongly feel that this year, majority of the culture questions, majority of the ecology questions, almost all of the geography questions, and almost 25 to 30% of the polity questions, or even 40% of the polity questions, and many of the history questions shall be handpicked from recent news items. So that would be the pattern, that would be the nature, and I feel that 2020 prelims paper will be a surprise for many of the candidates. Naturally, you may ask me a question, why it is going to be a surprise? It is very simple, because many conventional areas that were, of course, asked even in 2019 shall be completely replaced in 2020. And 2020 shall be a watershed, literally a watershed that happened in 2011 and 14. It will be a similar watershed where certain new areas will be added to the question domain. And those new areas shall be certain surprisingly new areas. Many of them may be handpicked from international affairs. The number of questions from international affairs area shall go up. The number of questions with regard to international publications may be going up. With regard to international treaties, conventions, etc. shall be going up. And of course, the international domain, the international area would be almost occupying 15 or 16 questions. And almost all of them, perhaps 14 out of them, would be from the current international focus. So definitely the importance of internationalization in UPSC shall be very high, and the number of rote conventional questions that are usually asked from history also will come down. Even history questions would have, I strongly predict, I strongly feel, I have a gut feeling that even the history questions may have a current focus, which means those history items, those news related to culture and history, especially history, that were appearing in news recently. Recently in the sense, right from November 2019 to probably March 2020 shall be handpicked by UPSC, and those questions shall be specially posted or specially placed in the question paper. So again, this will be a general trend. I am just predicting a trend with regard to the nature of the examination. This is not an exhaustive information. We will continue with this series, of course, how the prelims would look like in 2020. But I feel three recurring trends can be identified in 2020, and three prominent trend setters too. One would be, of course, the first and the prominent one would be the number of current affair questions shall increase. Second one would be the number of international affair or international relations questions shall have a drastic increase. And the third one, the rote typical conventional areas like maybe geography, maybe the conventional side of environment, conventional polity, like the basic things like fundamental rights, directive principles, etc., shall be replaced by application type of questions. The Prelims 2020 would be a changing trend, and that changed trend shall continue maybe for another couple of years, maybe for 5 to 10 years to come. So let's wait for further sessions on this area. This is perhaps a beautiful area because you can prepare accordingly how the Prelims 2020 shall look like. Thank you.